The moment I signed the final page, the room broke into polite applause. A handshake here, a nod there, $100 million deal locked. I should have felt electric. I should have been riding high. But just as I was sliding the contract folder closed, my phone buzzed. Quick note: before we get deep into this, share which city or country you're watching from. It was a text from my mom. Hey, sweetheart. I wanted to let you know ahead of time. We won't be seeing you for Thanksgiving this year. Ryan and Julia are hosting. They've decided to keep the gathering small. Her family's curating the guest list, and there wasn't room. Let's grab coffee sometime soon instead. I stared at the screen for a second, trying to make sense of it. Then I read it again. Curating the guest list? Like this was some kind of art gallery exhibit, and I didn't make the cut. I looked around the boardroom, 15 people, all staring at me like I'd just saved their company's future. My name is Eric Knight. I'm 34 years old. I live in Seattle, and apparently I'm not good enough for a turkey dinner at my brother's house. I slid the phone into my pocket and forced a half smile as the CFO congratulated me again. She had no idea I was 5 seconds from flipping a table. I mean, this deal had been brutal. 18 months of meetings, lawyers, red lines, sleepless nights. I had clawed my way here from nothing, built secure tech from a janky laptop in my studio apartment to a company now owned by Tech Venture Global. 25 million of that 100 was going straight into my pocket. My life was about to change forever. And yet, my own mother couldn't spare a chair for me. Couldn't tell Julia to make room. Couldn't even fake it with a, "We wish you could come." I sat back down, jaw tight, and flipped through the closing documents like it was nothing. But inside, I was burning. Not because I needed a plate of dry stuffing and undercooked Brussels sprouts, but because that message was her way of saying, again, you don't belong here. I glanced at my phone one last time. The acquisition press release was set to go live. Thanksgiving morning. That irony hit like a punch to the chest. My biggest win, dropping on the one day my family officially decided I didn't matter. I let out a bitter chuckle, loud enough that the room turned to look at me. "Everything all right, Eric?" one of the execs asked. I snapped the folder shut. "Better than ever," I said. "Let's wrap this up. I've got bigger things to get to." And I meant it. Because if they didn't want me at their table, fine, I'd go build my own empire. That deal didn't come out of nowhere. It started 5 years back, the day I turned down a 6-figure offer from a cushy tech firm in San Francisco. They flew me out, wined and dined me, promised stock options, the whole package. I told them no. I was building something of my own. When I told my family, you'd think I said I was joining a cult. Ryan rolled his eyes so hard I thought they'd get stuck. "You're gonna turn down guaranteed money for some pipe dream?" "It's not a pipe dream," I told him. "It's a cybersecurity platform. Small businesses need better protection." My dad stayed quiet, sipping his coffee, but Mom went straight to that fake concern voice. "But honey, wouldn't it be safer to get experience at a real company first? You could always start your little business later." Little business. That was the first time she called it that. Wasn't the last. Ryan leaned back like he couldn't wait to lecture me. "You're being reckless, Eric. You don't have investors. You don't have a team. I've got skills. I've got clients already." "Sure," he smirked. "Until someone sues you." I should have walked out right then. But I just nodded and let them believe I was the screw-up brother chasing a fantasy in a hoodie. The dynamic never changed. Ryan was the golden boy. Law school, suits, big city firm. Every time we got together, the conversation tilted his way. Mom would ask about his clients like she understood what he did. Then she'd turn to me and ask, "So, how's the computer thing going?" Like I was fixing printers in a strip mall. Julia came into the picture a year later. Ivy League, Connecticut money, nose always tilted half an inch too high. Ryan brought her home like he'd won a prize. She barely looked at me during dinner, but when she finally spoke, she asked, "So, are you still doing that tech project, or did you switch careers?" "It's a company," I said. "And no, I didn't switch." "Oh." She smiled like that explained everything. After that, every holiday felt like I was tagging along to someone else's family. I'd try to talk about secure tech, government contracts, doubling revenue, new hires, and I'd get blank stares. Ryan would jump in with some story about a court win or a golf trip with Julia's dad, and suddenly I was background noise again. I kept building anyway, quietly. My bank account was growing, but no one noticed. Mom still called it my computer thing. And every time she said it, I felt that same tight knot in my chest. Like, no matter what I built, no matter how high I climbed, I'd always be the family's biggest question mark. So, I stopped trying to explain myself. I just went to work. Long hours, zero sleep, cold dinners on my desk. Secure tech was picking up speed. We got our first government contract 2 months later. Small-town police department in Ohio, nothing flashy, but it opened doors. Then a hospital group signed on. Then a mid-sized bank. I started getting cold calls from VCs wanting to partner. They saw potential. My family, they didn't see a thing. Next time I was home, my mom pulled me aside in the kitchen. "Eric, are you still doing that little business from your apartment?" "It's an office now," I said. "We've got 10 employees, just signed a contract with a medical network." "That's nice, sweetheart, but don't burn yourself out, okay? Ryan says your generation works too much for too little." Of course Ryan said that. We sat down for dinner, and within 5 minutes, he was going on about his promotion. "Junior partner," he announced like he'd been knighted. Mom gasped like she'd won the lottery. "God, we're so proud of you," she said, reaching across the table to squeeze his hand. Then she turned to me. "And you, honey? What's new in the computer world?" I laughed under my breath. "I closed a deal with a financial firm. Our revenue's up almost double from last year." "That's wonderful," she said, nodding politely. Then she looked back at Ryan. "You know who else just made partner? Julia's cousin, the one with the summer house." I stopped talking after that. Julia had taken over planning family get-togethers by then. Wine pairings, seating charts, the works. She sent out digital invitations and assigned dress codes. One Thanksgiving, I showed up wearing dark jeans and a blazer. Everyone else was in full-on cocktail attire. "Eric," she said at the door, her eyes skimming my outfit. I should have specified black tie. "It's fine, though. Come in." The place looked like a wedding reception. White tablecloths, name cards, those tiny gold forks no one uses. I looked around the dining room and realized something. My name wasn't at the main table. I'd been placed at the side table with her cousin's kids and 2 neighbors I didn't know. I sat there, eating dry turkey next to a teenager who didn't look up from his phone. My family was 15 feet away, laughing with Julia's parents like they were the ones who raised us. That night, I drove back to my apartment in silence. Didn't call anyone, didn't say goodbye. I just kept my head down and got back to work. But deep down, it hit me. No matter how far I pushed this company, I'd still be the one with the little computer thing. I thought I was numb by then. Turns out I wasn't even close. I found out about the house the same way I found out about everything else, by accident. Mom mentioned it in passing during a phone call, like it was a weather update. "Ryan and Julia finally bought," she said. "It's in Westlake. Very nice area." "That's great," I said. "When's the housewarming?" There was a pause. Not long, just long enough. "Oh," she said, careful. "They're keeping it small. Just close friends?" I didn't ask where that left me. I already knew. A week later, my phone did what my family wouldn't. Social media lit up with photos. Ryan in a tailored jacket, holding a glass of something expensive. Julia in a white dress, standing in a kitchen bigger than my first apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows, stone countertops. Smiling faces I didn't recognize, but my parents were there, front and center. I called my mom that night, not angry, just tired. "You didn't think I might want to be there?" I asked. She sighed. "Eric, don't do this. You know how Julia's family is. It was easier this way." Easier for who? I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I just said, "Okay," and hung up. I sat there in my office, lights off, city glowing through the windows, and finally said it out loud, to myself. They don't love me for who I am. They love what looks good, what sounds impressive at dinner parties, what they can show off. And that was it. Something in me shut down. Clean, quiet, final, no more updates, no more explaining. No more trying to earn a seat at a table that was never meant for me. The next morning, I walked into a meeting with my legal team, expecting another routine call. Instead, one of them slid a folder across the table. Tech Venture Global wants to talk acquisition, she said. Full buyout, serious money. I flipped it open. Numbers stared back at me that didn't feel real. This wasn't just success. This was escape. I closed the folder, stood up, and told them to set the meeting. Then I went back to my desk and got to work. Once that door opened, it didn't close again. Tech Venture Global came in fast and heavy. Meetings stacked on meetings. Lawyers arguing over commas. Late nights that bled into early mornings. I barely left my office except to shower and change clothes. We signed 3 days before Thanksgiving. I didn't tell my family, not a word, no group text, no call to mom, no smug update to Ryan. They hadn't earned it, and I wasn't interested in watching them pretend they always believed in me. The press embargo lifted Thanksgiving morning. I woke up alone in my apartment, made coffee, and ordered Chinese takeout like it was any other Thursday. While the delivery app loaded, my phone started buzzing, not with messages, but alerts. TechCrunch. Tech Venture Global. Acquires secure tech solutions and $100 million deal. Forbes, founder Eric Knight. Net's massive exit and cybersecurity acquisition. Bloomberg, quiet startup becomes major player. Overnight, my name was everywhere, photos I barely recognized. Quotes pulled from old interviews, people calling me a visionary, a founder to watch. I laughed once, sharp and short, and turned the volume down. I spent Thanksgiving on my couch, eating lo mein out of the container and watching a movie I didn't care about. Outside, the city was quiet. Inside, my phone stayed silent. No call from mom, no text from Ryan, nothing from Julia. That silence said more than any congratulations ever could. For the first time, I felt calm about cutting them off. No guilt, no second guessing, just clarity. Walking away hadn't been dramatic. It had been necessary. Then, late afternoon, the silence cracked. One missed call, then another, then 3 texts in a row. My phone lit up like it was finally catching on. Mom, Eric, please call me. We're confused. Ryan, is this real? Did something happen with your company? Julia, we need to talk. This is all over the news. Not congrats, not we're proud, just panic, confusion, damage control. I stared at the screen, chewing slowly, letting the food go cold in my mouth. This was the part they hadn't planned for, the moment when the little computer thing turned into something they couldn't ignore. I didn't respond. I set the phone face down on the coffee table, grabbed another bite, and turned my attention back to the TV. Then I stood up, carried the empty container to the trash, and let the lid drop hard. I left the phone face down, but it didn't stop buzzing. The vibration rattled against the coffee table like it was trying to crawl back into my life. I didn't pick it up. A voicemail came through first. I let it sit for an hour before I listened. Mom's voice filled the room, thin and unsure. Eric, honey, I don't really understand what's going on. Your aunt called me asking questions and I didn't know what to say. Can you please call me back and explain all this? Explain what? That I'd been building something real while they were busy curating guest lists? Another buzz, a text from Ryan. Hey, I'm seeing a lot of stuff online. Just want to make sure you're okay. This deal, is it legit? You didn't get scammed, right? I actually laughed at that, out loud. The nerve of it. Years of mocking my choices, and now he was worried I was too stupid to read a contract. Then Julia chimed in. No small talk, no concern. This acquisition, what does it mean for you? Are you staying in Seattle? Also, Mom said you've been distant. Are you planning to come around more now? There it was, the real question. Not how I felt, not how hard I worked. Just whether I was ready to step back into my assigned role. My phone kept lighting up, missed calls stacked up like evidence. I watched the screen glow and go dark, over and over. I felt pressure in my chest, but it wasn't panic. It was something steadier, control. They wanted answers, context, a version of me that fit into their story. I wasn't interested in giving them any of that. For years, I'd explained myself, defended my choices, shrunk my wins so they wouldn't feel uncomfortable. Now, suddenly, they wanted a front row seat. Too late. I typed out a response to Ryan, deleted it. Started one to my mom. Deleted that too. Whatever I said would turn into an opening, a negotiation, an attempt to pull me back into a world where I was always an afterthought. I didn't owe them clarity. I didn't owe them reassurance. I didn't owe them anything. The silence between us wasn't cruelty. It was honesty. I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and slipped my phone into a drawer by the door. Then I shut it, locked it, and walked out into the cold night without looking back. I was just getting back from the gym when I saw him, standing outside my building, shifting his weight like he didn't know whether to leave or knock again. Ryan, hair a mess, no coat, eyes heavy like he hadn't slept in a while. Not the version of him I was used to, polished suit, smug grin, glass of red wine in hand. This was someone else. I walked up, unlocked the door, didn't say a word. "Eric," he said quietly, "can we talk?" I didn't answer. I just pushed the door open and walked inside. If he wanted to talk, he could follow. He did. I tossed my keys on the counter and grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge. He stood awkward in the middle of the room, like he didn't belong. "I should have come sooner," he started. "I've been a shitty brother." I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "I let Julia and her family run the show," he said. "They always had an idea of how things were supposed to look, and I went along with it. I didn't stand up for you. I didn't speak up when I should have. You didn't even invite me to your housewarming, Ryan," I said. "You let them put me at the kids' table for Thanksgiving. You let Mom keep calling my company a hobby." He looked down. "I know. I saw the articles, and it hit me. You weren't just doing all right. You were building something real, and I never once asked about it." I stared at him for a second. "Are you sorry because you treated me like shit, or because now I make more than you and the optics suck?" He flinched. "Both," he said honestly. I shook my head. "That's not good enough. I want to make it right." "No, you want it not to be awkward anymore. That's different." He didn't argue. He just stood there, hands in his pockets. "I don't need your approval," I said. "I don't need this family's approval. I built something you all ignored until it made headlines. And now you want to patch it up? I know an apology doesn't fix it." "I get that," he said. "But I'm here. I'm trying." I walked past him, opened the door. "Trying means more than showing up when it's convenient," I said. "If you really want to fix things, it starts with changing how you treat people when there's nothing to gain." He stood there for a second, then nodded slowly and walked out. I shut the door behind him and locked it, not out of anger, out of peace. A few months went by. I kept my head down and stayed busy. Nothing new, but it felt different now, cleaner. I downsized my circle to the few people who'd been there before the money, before the headlines. My lead engineer, Caleb, my old roommate, Mike, a product manager I hired 3 years ago who used to bring me coffee during all-nighters without being asked. Those were the people I trusted. No pretense, no performance, no waiting for me to screw up or succeed. Then one morning, a letter showed up at my office. Handwritten envelope, my mom's script. I almost tossed it without opening it, but curiosity got the better of me. Inside was a 4-page letter. No filler, no excuses. She admitted she'd failed me, said she was too busy trying to keep the peace between Ryan and Julia's world and our own, that she stopped seeing me clearly. "I was wrong," she wrote. "Not just about your work, but about your worth. I see that now. If there's any chance to rebuild, I'd like to try. But I understand if you say no." I sat with that for a long time. Eventually I texted her, short and simple. "Coffee, Saturday, noon, just us." We met at a quiet place a few blocks from my apartment. She was already there when I walked in, ordered my old drink without asking, like she used to. "I meant what I wrote," she said before I even sat down. "I know," I said. "That's why I came." There was a pause. Then she said, "You look good. Healthier. Cut out all the toxic people," I said. She nodded like she deserved that. Maybe she did. I didn't yell, didn't list all the ways she'd hurt me. She already knew. This wasn't about revenge, it was about boundaries. I told her I wasn't interested in going backward. I wasn't joining the family dinners just to be treated like the odd man out again. If we rebuild, it's on my terms, I said. No pretending, no performance. No more trying to impress people who never cared. She looked right at me. Okay, your terms. It wasn't a grand moment, no tears, no dramatic reunion, just a real one, and that was enough. Later that night, I walked back to my place alone, coffee still warm in my hand. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was chasing something. I'd already built it, and I wasn't giving it up for anyone.